A burp. 3, 2. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Kozakari here, doing a quick review of the VK36.01H. I say quick when I did the T67, it's a 50-minute vid. So doing another. Hopefully it's a quick. I don't think you guys mind. So anyway, the Tier 6 German Heavy. This is a tank that leads to the E100. And it is a beautiful machine. This is a tank that I've had off and on, kind of like the T67, in my garage, in and out, kind of. I tried it, then sold it, I think, and bought it back, and then it kind of collected dust forever. But I finally got back into the thing, and as you can see, I have actually free marked the tank. It looks very snazzy with the rings, very snazzy indeed. That means I'm a pro. That means I'm special. I'm so special. So special. It's a very nice looking tank. It's a bit of like a Tonka toy-ish. You know, it's like a micro tank, you know. But it's not a tank to be taken for granted, because it is a beautiful machine, you know, at Tier 6. I first encountered this tank back in the day. I think it was like my first 6 months of playing World of Tanks. I'm just trying to become a better player, and I was looking up the Hall of Fame on World of Tanks. You know, the top players. You know, how do they do? You know, what tanks do they play, and all that jazz. And there was one player who was in the top 5. I cannot remember, but you know, this was like 3 years ago. There was one player in particular who had like 500 plus games played in this tank, and you know, I didn't know it at the time, but the guy was most probably, you know, stat padding. You know, what was he stat padding? You know, there's 2 ways of approaching this argument. Either you're stat padding or you're simply having fun, you know, and there's nothing wrong with having fun. So either he was just having fun, or he was stat padding, hence he was in the top 10, top 5, whatever players in the world. And but anyhow, but I purchased the thing, and I rolled out in it, and I could not figure out, you know, because I wasn't as good a player as I am today, and I was like, what is this tank? It's tiny, it's small, it looks kind of very toyish, you know, childish. You know, and I brushed it to the side. I didn't play it, you know. It collected dust, and now 2-3 years later, you know, I understand tanks much better, much more, and I appreciate this tank, and I know how good it is. It is a great tank, you know. It really is a great tank, and it is a fun tank, more so than the T67. With the T67, it's kind of like you get lit up, you die. With this tank, it's kind of a different kettle of fish, because you have armor, you know. That's the main thing. It has a really decent gun. It has a choice of 2 guns, but it has really decent armor, and of course, you know, you do your little diamond formation when you're approaching the reds, and you'll be good to go. And but there's kind of like, you know, the 2 different guns that you can roll out in. You know, average pen of Tier 6 heavies is around 140, and you have a choice of 2 guns, you know, when playing in this thing and when grinding. And of course, you have to go through both guns. So there's the 7.5, and then there's the 88. I chose to play with the 88. There's lots of people out there that play, you know, with this 7.5. But it's totally up to you. Both guns are great. Both guns they're very kind of different, but they do the job 100%. So the 7.5 pen, you know, this is the more accurate, higher pen gun, faster firing, etc., etc. While the 88 is the slower loading gun, less pen but more damage and less accuracy. But both of them have 2.3 aim time. That's the only kind of similarities, but it's 100% up to you. You know, like I said, you have to go through the 8.8, but you might not like it and decide, okay, I'm going to finish the grind with the 7.5. So it's totally up to you. So 14 rounds a minute on the 7.5, 157 pen, which is great, you know, because I said 140 is average pen for Tier 6 heavies. And you know, we've used these type of guns before. I have myself. You know, it's kind of a very typical mid-tier medium gun where you just pew pew pew, and you just high repeating, a low alpha, death of 1,000 needles, etc., etc. And but that accuracy is fantastic. There's no denying 0.34. You add Vents Brothers in Arms, and you can bring that down to must be 0.31, 0.3. So it's definitely, you know, a sniping gun. This gun, on the other hand, is a heavy tank gun. You know, you get much more alpha, much more bang for your buck. It's less penetration, but you know, it's not subpar, you know, because it's 145, it's not below average. Rate of fire 8.69, accuracy is 0.38, which is very typical heavy tank accuracy. But you know, Kohler, Brothers in Arms, Vents, you can bring that down absolutely, so it's much more workable. But the reason why I chose this gun, because it's a heavy tank. You know, I'm not really there to snipe. I've got the armor to brawl. You know, I have the armor to brawl, and you know, I can get in people's faces. We're at tier 6 as well, so you know, keep in mind you are got to be facing tier 8s. So there's those, you know, tier 8 Soviet heavies, and you know, a lot of the premium tanks, overpowered premium tanks, etc., etc., you know, super Pershings. But you do have really decent armor, you know, on the turret, at front. You do the diamond formation, you're basically good to go. So it's a really great tank, you know, it really is a great tank. And I loved, you know, rolling out in this thing in a free market, free marking the thing, I have to say 100%. What else to say? As you can see, you know, I did run the manual fire extinguisher, you know, because I did have a bit of, you know, I tried to keep the budget low and spend on premium shells. Like I said, you're rolling out at tier 8. There's that to be considered. What the equipment that I used was the gun rammer. What else did I use? Vents and gun lane drive You know, so you know, you don't get vert stabs. I wouldn't use vert stabs. Vert stabs. I've always been of the belief, of the knowledge, of the understanding that vert stabs work. You know, when you're mobile, and gun lane drive works when you're stationary. You know, so when you're choosing between the two, if you're going to be more stationary than and less mobile, as in rolling out in the heavy tank, you should go for GLT anyway. So those are the three that I went for basically. When it comes to your crew, I've got just the basic crew. You know, my crew has kind of moved on. Repairs, definitely, I mean, go for 6 cents first, 100%. That's in any tank. With heavies, kind of backtracking here, 6 cents isn't necessarily a must in heavily armored tanks. 100%. You can go for 6 cents second. You can go for Brothers in Arms first, and then go for 6 cents second. And this is my personal opinion. This is because you don't necessarily need 6 cents as your first skill or perk, because you're a heavily armored tank, and you know when you're lit up because people are shooting at you and they're bouncing shots off you, so you know when you're lit up basically. But it's a must, you know. So if you want to get the best performance out of your gun, you know, instantly, then go for Brothers in Arms. But it's totally up to you. 6 cents, Brothers in Arms. Repairs, and I think it's track repair. Is it track repair? A track mechanic, you know, track mechanic. After that, it's totally up to you. You know, it's 100% up to you. What else to say about the tank? I think that's it. I mean, oh, mobility. It has really decent mobility. You know, the track for traverse is okay. You know, it's German, etc., etc. But for such a heavily armored tank, you know, I think that's down to the the actual size of the thing. It's it does move. It does hustle. You know, to a max speed 51 kilometers per hour. So engine power 610. So you know, it's there. You know, it's really good. It's kind of like a heavy that wants to be almost a medium tank, you know, in my personal opinion. As you can see, gun depression is pretty decent as well, 8 degrees, you know, so that's good as well. But yeah, you know, carry a healthy amount of premium. Like I said, because you do see tier 8, so there's that to be considered. Don't be afraid to use your premium. You get a nice healthy amount of shells as well. You know, don't spam the gold, absolutely, but yeah, it's there for a reason. You know, this tank up against tier 8s, that's why you need premium. If you don't carry premium, you're letting yourself down, you're letting your team down. But at the same time, don't spam the gold. Don't spam the gold. Don't do that. It's a great tank. Let's get into some gameplay, shall we? And first game, we're on El Haluf, as you can see, and straight away I'm going to be contradicting myself about the you know, don't spam the gold, by playing a game where I was basically, this is a game where I was bottom tier, as you can see, tier 8, tier 7, tier 6 match, and I've got to be spamming a lot of premium because I am bottom tier, and well, you know, my tank is what it is. My tank is, you know, very decently armored, but when I'm top tier, you know, when I'm top tier with tier 7s, etc., etc. But I am going to be using a lot of premium. So yeah, States don't use premium, and then first game he uses premium galore. But like I said, you know, I'm bottom tier. This is actually the game where I did free mark the tank. So initially get some very, very lucky shots into a tier 8 Rheinmetall Borsig. He's lit up by the medium in front of me. I straight away take advantage of that and get 2 really decent shots into him. So we're good to go there. And nothing else to see. Nothing else to see. So we're going to be... you can see what I'm up against. You know, I mean, the French heavies aren't that heavily armored, but still, you know, it is what it is. So we're gonna load premium, and we're gonna get some shots into this AMX right here using our 8 degrees of gun depression. I do believe, you know, the dips in the terrain here do muck me up on 1 or 2 occasions. Low roll there with the first shot, low roll again, 202, and now, you know, I have his attention, so I need to be wary of the fact that, you know, he's going to be mad at me and try and get a shot into me. Hence my hesitation, you know, you can see there. And yeah, he gets it. Yeah. So, you know, I paid the price there. But anyhow, and this is where kind of like the dip, you can see as I creep forward and I miss out on that shot. But what can you do, you know? But it's a good battle going here in the north in El Haluf. As I push up here, I want to have a look what's over the ridge line, and I expose myself way too much, as you can see, and I pay the price. I lose quite a few of my hit points, so I'm going to be more passive, less aggressive. Quickly get out of the way. He misses, and I get one into him. We still have premiums loaded, like I mentioned, and he gets taken out, the French heavy. And now we're going to attempt to get some... This is a very tricky situation. I didn't think I'd get any shots on the Kaiju as he's kind of pulling back. Yeah. This is kind of a tricky situation. It's very easy to get shots on these guys, this VK36 and the heavy next to him. But you've got to be aware of, you know, how far the tank's on your left poking out. I couldn't really gauge. Could I pull out, you know, far enough to get shots on his butt? So I return my focus, my attention towards these 2 guys around the corner. As I poke around VK30 OP, I see my chance. I can take out the VK30H, and now we're just waiting for the P to fire. He fires, and I just decided, let's just go for it. Just go for it. Scoot around. And now when you engage in this area, you've got to be wary of snipers in the back. Up there you can see, you know, somebody shot some APCR. And now I auto aim on the Tiger. He's got the diamond formation. It's not going to work, you know. It's 100%. I need to take my time, aim in, and make the shot count, you know, 100%. And as I do so, I pen, you know, I'm rewarded. Again, second pen. And will I get the kill? No, I do not. So again, as you push down here, you've got to be aware of snipers in the back, even though they're not really snipers. So I decide, does my heavy need help with the vengeance? He gets taken out, so we're good to go there. And then a wild Pershing appears. This is the Pershing from earlier on that was sitting next to the Borsig, sniping in a Pershing, top tier. Okay, whatever. I do get lucky here, you know. I do get lucky here, 100%. I get saved. My butt gets saved. You know, he almost just taps me and I would have died. Absolutely. So we've had a fantastic game, considering the fact that we're bottom tier so far. So we're gonna speed this part up here as I move in. I think it's a Bulldog is left and an Indian Panzer, and that's it. So all I'm looking for right now, I still have premiums loaded, but I figured, you know, again, you know, I'm bottom tier. He's a tier 8. I played in the Indian Panzer. I know what that tank is like, you know. It has really well angled, sloped armor, especially like on the turret. But I'm going to be engaging him from behind, so you know, premium wasn't needed. It's just one of those games where you're just like, oh, whatever, you know. I didn't really think, and I was just enjoying the fact that I was just getting all this damage, and I knew I was close to my 95%, and I thought, you know, if I make every single shot pen and the wild Bulldog appears, you know, 15 pens, even though 2 of those were kills, I knew I was there, you know, at 95%. I knew I was, so I was just like, go for it, go for it. This was the game where I got the 95%, and I knew it, and even before it happened, and I was just like, well, just make sure you hit that 95% and be done and dusted with, you know, with this tank. And sure enough, you know, 3 gun marks, we are good to go. We lose a little bit of silver, considering, you know, it was a silver spamming, you know, premium spamming game. Only 13k, what's the big deal, you know. 3k damage, very nice, bottom tier, good to go, hit that 95%, very happy indeed. And next game, we're only doing 2 battles in this tank. We're on White Park, and I don't think I use any premium in this game. I think it's a tier 7, tier 6, tier 5 match, and we're going to be using the middle ridge line, you know, and our gun depression 8 degrees to pretty decent effect. When you're up here, you got to be aware of, first and foremost, you know, in this game there were 3 pieces of artillery, so I was trying to hug the broken train here to my right as much as possible. At the same time, you need to be aware of the gap between the two. You can see that gap there, that little triangle formation that those 2 broken railroad carts have created, because you will, you know, there's a whole bunch of reds there hugging that area, you know, trying to get shots beneath the railroad carts. Not sure what this Chaffee was up to, but I did manage to take him out, so we're good to go. So, and I believe I do receive 1 shot from, you know, one of the tanks, that heavy there. I believe I get 1 shot from him. You always need to be aware of what's going on up here in the west. You know, sometimes people can be up there not lit up and they'll snipe at you, so always be aware of what's going on in the west. Trying to poke the middle, light up some targets, you know, for my artillery. 82. I'm not going to pen him, you know, from this distance. You need to know, you know, how to pen, where to pen, all of that jazz. VK36, and there you go. You know, I finally get a shot into me. So I've lost a considerable amount of my health. KV85 and Churchill pushing through. Side this side. Let's get some side shots into them. Don't need premium. At the same time, you know, I could be sniped from the rear, so I was thinking about that, and there you go. Not sure where that shot came from. I think it was the Churchill. KV85 misses his shot. I get a nice shot into his side, but you know, I don't want to be engaging him. If you look at my hit points, taking a look what's going on in the battle, and I decide, okay, let's go for this. KV85. He's about to pounce on my heavy. I think he's face hugging him. Let's take him out real quick, help out my heavy. So you can, I mean, the gameplay, it's kind of, it's a little bit daring, but it's conservative at the same time, if you know what I mean. I'm surprised the artillery didn't get any shots on me, or attempt to get any shots on me. I guess they were concentrated on my, they're concentrating on my compadres in the west, you know, in the back there. Tiger 1, don't need premium, shooting in his butt. He's kind of preoccupied with my teammates. I'm using the train here as cover as I get shots into him. Lovely free damage there. Good to go. And now what else do we see? French medium, get a nice shot into him. No, mock up that shot. And we do exchange fire there, but it was an okay exchange. You know, the Reds are kind of getting desperate at this point. And can I take out this Tiger 1? And we're good to go, you know. So no premium was needed there. We get a healthy amount of pens. Now deciding whether or not I can make the dash onto the whatchamacallit, the artillery, the platoon of artillery. VK 30.01H. I know he doesn't have that much armor, but he's got a really good gun. I'll take him out. So a pretty good demonstration of some conservative, you know, reluctant gameplay in this tank, where I was kind of picking and choosing my moments. I wasn't daring, I wasn't crazy, you know, because you got to be careful when you're working that ridge line. You know, I kind of micromanage my hit points pretty decently. Picked and chose my moments accordingly, you know, based on my hit points kind of going down. You know, it's the same thing here. I just don't want to. I wouldn't mind getting, you know, 1 or 2 more pens and that's it. But yeah, I don't want to die, because I'm only on, what is it, 65, 85, I can't see. Managed to get 1 more pen. So VK36, very decent tank, very nice tank. You know, don't spam the gold, what can I say, but when you're bottom tier, you're bottom tier. You're in this tiny little Tonka tank. But when you're top tier, have at it. Diamond formation, go for it. You know, 2.5k damage, not bad at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the VK36 .01H. A very nice tank. Very nice tank. Take it easy, guys. Adios, muchachos.